This week's Crossover Thursday episode of Locked On Bears and Locked On Commanders is brought to you by PrizePicks. And now Lauren Cox, Locked On Bears host, and myself, David Harrison of Locked On Commanders, are going to tell you the three things that each team has to do, must do, in order to get a win in Week 8 in Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland. Lauren, the away team gets to call the coin toss, so I'm going to let you call your three things first.
Yeah, sure. So I think first and foremost, if I look specifically to this Washington game, it's having a plan for the up tempo and the no huddle. Like the Bears have definitely been a team that prides itself on conditioning and working their guys hard through training camp in the preseason so that they don't run out of gas by the fourth quarter of games. I feel like they can outlast teams to the fourth quarter, but up tempo is a great way to really test that. And I don't think other teams have really tested the Bears in that regard. And sometimes that defensive line can get tired, and they've tried some different rotations in that group up front. So I think the Bears need to have a concrete plan there and to be able to stay a step ahead and not only just, get off the field on third downs so the Commanders can't get these, up-tempo drives going where they get into a rhythm and march their way down the field, but also, find ways to stop the clock by getting ball carriers out of bounds, or, if you can force an incomplete pass so they can't hurry up to the line of scrimmage and get the next play going so that you can be ready on your substitutions when the clock does stop. Because that's the other aspect of this is, okay, you stop the clock. Now what? Do you have a platoon for the defensive line? How are you going to rotate guys in and out of there so that you're getting a consistent pass rush? And then, how they mix in, blitzes and other things like that to try and disrupt that rhythm of the Commanders' offense is really going to be critical. Because we talked a little bit this week about how the Bears had kind of gotten a little predictable blitzing. It was usually the slot cornerback, usually on second and long, and usually out of single deep coverages. Last week against the Jaguars, they switched that up quite a bit and went more two deep coverages, blitzed on different downs, different places. So if they can stay one step ahead with the Commanders there, that's also going to be I meshed in a second key to victory there is mixing up the pass rush to disrupt the offense, staying ahead of the up tempo. And then I think offensively for the Bears, right, it's about keeping things easy for Caleb Williams. When he struggled early this season, it's because they couldn't run the ball and they weren't on the same page with receivers. And so he had to do a lot. He had to throw the ball 50 plus times against the Indianapolis Colts, and they still lost in that game. But if they can keep the running game going, they've made good progress in that regard. If they can, let the checkdowns make plays after the catch, he doesn't have to throw the bombs all the time and make things happen everywhere for the offense. Just take what the defense gives you. Trust that your defense is going to give you an extra opportunity or two with a turnover at some point in this game, and let everything sort of come to Caleb. That's been really the formula for the Bears' success.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'll tell you, on the Commander side of things, I think, the three things you got to do is contain Caleb, maximize turnover-worthy plays, and then, of course, because we have to get something on the offensive side of the ball, run the ball. I don't care who the quarterback is. This needs to be a Brian Robinson-heavy game if you're the Washington Commanders, and it actually goes right into one of the things you're talking about. So I'm going to start there real quick. Run the ball, keep the clock running, shorten the game, and put more pressure on that Chicago Bears offense to produce on a drive-in, drive-out basis. The Washington Commanders have been really good about producing points on not every drive, right? They did have that really long run earlier in the season where they were producing points or at least scoring opportunities on every drive, but they are still scoring at a very, very impressive clip. They still did it against, again, Carolina Panthers defense got it, but they still did that even with Marcus Mariota in the game last week. Now that he's going to have a full week, and just to be clear, Jaden Daniels not playing is not a for sure thing, but right now we're kind of operating under that belief. That's at least most of us here in Washington are operating under that belief. So that's why the conversation is slanted that way. But even if Jaden comes out there and plays, clearly he's still going to have a little bit of a rib owie going on. So you don't want to get him hit as much as possible. And the Chicago Bears, like we just talked about, they're getting a lot of pressure on quarterbacks. Their sack percentage compared to dropbacks that they're facing is really high. Their interception percentage is really solid. The best way to keep a defense from intercepting passes and sacking quarterbacks, give the ball to the running back. So you got three really good ones. Brian Robinson Jr., I think, is nationally underrated and maybe even criminally underrated. Austin Eckler is a very capable veteran. And then Jeremy McNichols has had his moments as well this season and proven that he can be a reliable third running back in the pecking order. I want those three backs, Lauren, this weekend. I don't care who the quarterback is, to combine for 25 or more carries. Then we can talk about Austin Eckler's receptions and maybe B-Rob on a check down or two and all those things. But I want 25 carries. And if you can manage to get a game flow going as the Washington Commanders offense to where you can justify 25 or more combined carries for those three backs, I think you're going to put yourself in a very good situation. Like I said, you're going to shrink the game. And then defensively, maximize on turnover-worthy plays and contain Caleb Williams in the pocket. Caleb Williams is not the runner Jaden Daniels is. I think you don't have to be a draft expert to understand that, but he can certainly still do damage with his legs, whether it's extending plays or getting rushing yards himself. So you want to contain him in there a lot like they did with Kyler Murray, a lot like they tried to do with Lamar Jackson and had success here and there while they were trying to do that. and get that pressure. The games where Caleb Williams is doing the best so far this season are just so happen to, not coincidentally, be the games he has the longest average time to throw, which means he's taking his time when he has it available to him. Don't let him have that time. Put pressure on him early. Even if you don't get in on him, make him throw a ball before he wants to throw that pass. Turn that into a turnover-worthy play, of which Caleb has had 3 turnover-worthy plays in one game. He's had at least 1 turnover-worthy play in every single game but one. Lauren, the Washington Commanders defense hasn't done a great job of maximizing on turnover-worthy plays, but they did it last week against Andy Dalton and the Carolina Panthers, getting 1 pick six and then another interception later. Convert that 1 or more turnover-worthy play that Caleb has been throwing right now per game into a takeaway. Extend your own drives. Take away one of Caleb Williams' drives. To me, that's a recipe to getting a win.
I think you're spot on there about Caleb Williams, where it's like, yeah, every game he'll give you one. And he's not going to put the ball in. He's not reckless with the ball at all. Like, it's not a pattern of behavior where, he throws 3 balls that could be picked off, but only 1 does. It's just like every game, there's been like one kind of rookie mistake type of stinker where you're like, all right, we can live with that for a rookie quarterback in his rookie season. So you have to be able to take advantage of those. And with the Commanders running game too, like, the Bears defense has been a little bit more vulnerable on the ground than it has been through the air. And there's been a few games this year where they'll just randomly kind of give up a big, not a breakaway, like 60-yard kind of touchdown, but just like a couple of big gashing runs where I think the Commanders will have a drive or two in this game where it feels like, oh, they're in rhythm and everything's rolling, and they'll get a couple touchdowns on those drives. And you'll start to feel like, okay, there's a formula and a path here. It's just a matter of, can they do that for 4 quarters? And typically this Bears defense has been really good at, they'll give up a touchdown drive in the first half and then stand pretty darn strong the rest of it. They'll give up a touchdown drive in the second half and stand pretty darn strong for the rest of it. And then it's a matter of how much the Bears offense can then score to match what this defense allows. But I agree with you that, like, the under bet feels a little bit more likely here. I don't think this is going to become a full on like shootout in either direction, but I do find myself leaning towards, especially without Jaden Daniels, probably a Bears victory along the lines of where the money, where the spread is right now.